My unfaithful wife planned a girls' trip with her ex-lover. So I hired moving companies to pack up her stuff and told her to leave our house permanently. Be me, Blake. Her hand lingered on the doorframe longer than it needed to. Not affectionate, hesitant, almost like guilt wanted a second to speak. But it didn't get the chance. She turned, half-smiled, tossed her hair over her shoulder like she was heading to brunch with friends, not off to another man's bed. Victoria wore the black leather jacket she always saved for special occasions. I'd never liked it. Not because it was ugly, it wasn't, but because she wore it when she wanted to feel powerful, commanding, in control. She didn't kiss me goodbye, just muttered, "Don't wait up," as she slammed the door behind her. The hallway echoed longer than it should have. I stood by the kitchen island, one hand flat on the cold granite, the other gripping my teacup tight enough to crack it. "Girls' trip," she said. "Up by the lake," she said. No signal, no stress, just wine and face masks. Lies, all of it. I wasn't even surprised anymore. Not really. Just tired. I had known for 5 weeks. The moment it all clicked wasn't some dramatic revelation. No lipstick on collars or strangers sending me screenshots. It was smaller, more surgical than that. She was singing in the shower again. Victoria only sings when she's in love. I used to be the reason. It started as little hums, then full-blown ballads while she was shaving her legs or doing her makeup. Not for me. Not anymore. The songs weren't the ones we used to slow dance to in the kitchen either. They were new, energetic, bold, like she was rehearsing for someone else. I could have asked her straight up, but Victoria has a lawyer's tongue, twists truths until you're apologizing for asking. So I waited, listened, watched. And then one night while she was in the shower singing again, her phone lit up on the bathroom counter. No passcode. She never thought I'd look, or maybe she wanted me to. It was him, Ethan. I should have known it was him. He used to come over for dinner when they were working on the city council campaign together. One of those guys who smiles with his teeth but not his eyes. I'd always gotten a weird vibe. But Victoria swore he had a boyfriend. Totally harmless, she'd said. He's basically my gay bestie. Sure, right. The message was short, brazen. No fear. Still on for Friday? Got the lake house keys. Bring that thing I like. No emoji, no wink. Just ownership. And she responded with a heart. I put her phone back down, dried my hands, stepped out of the bathroom like nothing happened. But inside, something snapped. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the casualness. Like I was already gone in her mind. Like I didn't even deserve the courtesy of a real goodbye. She was planning a weekend getaway with him. So I planned one of my own. Not to a lake house. Not with champagne and candles. No, I planned a silent, irreversible exit. I spent the next 4 days prepping. Not a word to her. I was surgical, quiet. I made sure she didn't suspect anything. Played dumb. Even made her tea the morning she left. And while she was pretending to pack comfy hiking clothes with a smirk on her face, I was gathering every piece of my identity, folding it neatly into 3 suitcases and 1 locked storage unit on the other side of the city. The movers were scheduled to arrive 7 hours after her plane touched down. By the time she'd unpack her lingerie at their cozy little lake house, she'd return to a half-empty house, the keys on the counter, and a bank account drained of my half. There was no note, no message, just silence, and the space she'd carved out in our life together now echoing louder than any scream I could have mustered. She wanted a weekend of lies, so I gave her a future without me, and I made sure she'd have to explain it alone. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of regret. That emotion had burned out weeks ago. But because my body was buzzing with the kind of cold clarity that only betrayal delivers. I lay on the floor of our guest room. The bed already stripped, mattress leaning against the wall. My bags were lined up by the door like soldiers. Everything else worth keeping had already been labeled, boxed, and stacked. I was ready. The silence in the house was surgical. Like a morgue. No TV, no ambient music, no her. Just me and the dull hum of a life being erased in real time. At 7:15 a.m., the moving truck backed into the driveway. I met the guys outside. Gave short instructions, minimal eye contact. Take everything in the marked rooms. Leave anything unlabeled, I said. And they didn't ask questions. The dining table gone. My books, tools, the record player she never touched. All of it disappeared into cardboard and steel, like it had never existed here at all. The only thing I left behind was the photo frame on the nightstand. Her favorite one, us grinning in front of the rental car in Big Sur, arms around each other. She wore his sunglasses that day. I didn't know it then. By 10:30 a.m. it was done. I did one last lap around the house. Didn't touch anything. Didn't cry. My hand grazed the wall in the hallway where she'd written, "This is our forever," in chalk when we moved in. I didn't wipe it off. Let her see it when she walked back in. Let her choke on it. I dropped the keys in the ceramic bowl by the front door, walked out without looking back. Got in my truck, started the engine, drove to a parking lot 3 miles away. I had time. Her flight wouldn't land for hours. I sat there, phone in hand, staring at her contact photo. It was one she chose, her kissing my cheek. Both of us flushed, buzzed from wine. She captioned it, "My always." I changed her name in my phone to just Victoria. No emoji, no title. Then I called the bank, split the accounts, canceled the shared cards, texted our landlord to confirm lease termination. He already had a new tenant lined up. I messaged my brother, told him I was on my way to stay with him for a bit. And then I did one last thing. I logged into our shared cloud drive, deleted every photo I was in. Every wedding photo, every anniversary dinner, every trip to her parents' house where I pretended to love her father's racist jokes. Gone. Let her explain that to Ethan, but just before I logged out, something stopped me. A file I hadn't seen before. It was a video uploaded 3 days ago. I clicked it, watched, and nearly vomited. There they were, her and Ethan in our living room. My chair in the background, my hoodie on the couch. She was on top of him, fully clothed, but not in a way that left anything to the imagination. She was laughing. He was filming. At one point, she looked into the camera and said, "Blake would die if he saw this." Then she winked. I stared at the screen for 6 full minutes, not moving, not breathing. That was the moment the anger came back. Not loud, not violent. Sharp, final. I called Taylor, her best friend, the one she was supposedly traveling with. She picked up chipper. "Hey, didn't expect to hear from you." "Amanda's in Colorado," I said. "With Ethan." "Thought you should know she's using your name to cover her ass." Silence. Then holy shit. Click. Didn't matter. I was done playing detective. Done with confrontation? What was left of me wasn't made of forgiveness. Later that night, I got the text I'd been waiting for. "Blake, where the hell is everything?" I didn't respond. Next one came an hour later. "You need to explain what's going on. Are you okay?" Still nothing. Then finally, "You're acting insane. I didn't do anything." That one made me laugh. Because when I say Victoria was good at lying, I mean world class. She would gaslight a mirror if she thought it made her look thinner. But this wasn't denial. This was panic. And I was just getting started. She called me 15 times that night. I didn't answer a single one. Her voicemails started calm. The performative concern, the innocent confusion. "Blake, I'm really worried. Can you please just call me? I don't understand what's going on." By voicemail number 6, the mask slipped. "You're being dramatic." Seriously, what is this? Some kind of test? Grow up? By voicemail 11, she was crying, fake tears. I sat in my brother's basement guest room, surrounded by boxes and silence, watching her break down into static on my screen. She didn't know where I was. Didn't know I'd already filed a change of address. Locked up the last of my documents. Moved every penny out of the joint account. She had nothing left to hold over me. But I wasn't done. The real Victoria hadn't shown herself yet. The next day, I got a DM from Ethan. "Hey man, can we talk?" He had the audacity to write that. He knew. Of course he knew. He was the plan. He wasn't some slip-up. He was the upgrade. The new ride she'd been test driving for months behind my back. Maybe he felt guilty. Maybe Victoria was already spinning a new narrative. I didn't answer him either. Just let him sit in that tension. Then came the message from her mother. "Victoria said you left her, that you disappeared. Is everything okay?" I stared at that one for a long time, because that's how she operates. She doesn't just lie. She infects reality. Makes herself the victim before anyone even knows they're supposed to choose sides. I knew I had a narrow window before the sympathy machines turned on. Before she posted some vague quote on Instagram. Before the wine nights with friends turned into sob stories, where I was the cold, distant husband who just gave up. So I pulled the pin. I sent 4 people the video. Taylor, Victoria's younger brother Owen, her own mother, and her sister. No context, no commentary. Just the truth. I didn't wait for responses. I turned my phone off and went for a long walk down an unfamiliar street. I hadn't walked aimlessly in years. The air hit different now. Colder, cleaner, like I'd finally stepped out of a house that had been slowly leaking gas while I slept. When I got back, my brother was waiting for me in the kitchen. He looked up from his cereal. "Dude, Victoria called me." I nodded. "Figured." He hesitated. "She's freaking out." "Good. She's saying you're unstable. That you lost it?" I opened the fridge. "Did you believe her?" "Nope." He paused. "She said something weird, though. Said she thinks you were planning this for months." I turned and looked at him. She wasn't wrong. Because deep down, I think I always knew something was coming. Not the details, not Ethan, but something. Victoria was the kind of woman who needed a stage. Tension, applause. I used to be the spotlight. Then I became the audience. Eventually, I was just a crew member holding the wires while she took bows for performances I wasn't even invited to. That night, she finally snapped. "New number, blocked ID." She left a voicemail. I wish I could bottle and send to every man who ever doubted his gut. "You're seriously going to throw away everything over nothing?" "I didn't do anything wrong, Blake. You were always paranoid, always insecure. You made this happen. You're punishing me for your own failures. And guess what? I'm fine. I'm going to be just fine. Go cry in your little man cave while I keep living my life." There it was. The real Victoria. Not the girl I married. Not the one who cried during Pixar movies and made me pancakes on Saturdays. This was the one who saw people as chess pieces. And I was no longer on the board. When the dust settles, people talk about closure, like it's some neat little bow you tie at the end of a relationship. Like you get one last conversation, maybe a hug, and then it's done. Closure isn't a moment. It's a brutal, slow unraveling, a crawl through dark rooms of your own mind, where the only light comes from memories twisting into lies. Victoria's message slammed through me like a freight train. "I'm fine." Those 3 words were venom wrapped in silk. She was fine, and I was the mess. I sat in my brother's kitchen, staring at the wall, replaying every late-night argument, every unreturned text, every time she said she was too tired for me, and all the while behind my back, she was making plans. Not just for a weekend, but for a whole new life. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of texts from her friends. Some sympathetic, some cold, some downright cruel. "Hope you realize what you lost. Maybe you should have paid more attention. Not everyone can be perfect." You know, I wanted to scream, to tell them she was a liar, a cheat, a woman who used her charm to rip apart the life we built. But words felt useless against the tide of fake smiles and Instagram stories, showing Victoria and Ethan hiking, laughing like they'd never known me. It hit hardest when I scrolled through her latest post, a photo of her and Ethan at sunset, arms around each other, glowing. Caption, "New beginnings." She tagged me too. The irony was cruel. I was the only one who saw the cracks behind the facade. I realized then how little I truly knew her. How much of our life was a show. How the woman I trusted with everything was a stranger hiding in plain sight. I called my therapist that day, told her everything. For the first time, I admitted I felt not just betrayed, but erased. Like I was a ghost in my own story. "You're grieving," she said. "Not just the marriage, but the future you thought you'd have." She was right. But anger was still the loudest voice inside me. I started writing, not to Victoria, not to Ethan, to myself, every night, scribbling pages about how I was going to rebuild, how I was going to find myself again. Because the hardest truth was clear. I couldn't fix what she broke, but I could fix me. Victoria tried one last stunt 3 weeks later, showed up at our old house. Not to talk, not to fight, but to collect a few things she forgot. I didn't answer. I watched from a distance as she banged on the door, shouted my name like she was reclaiming territory. Then she yelled something I'll never forget. "You're pathetic. I hope Ethan knows how lucky he is to get you out of his life." That cut deeper than any betrayal, because the woman I loved wasn't just gone. She was gone cruel, and I had to learn how to live without her. 3 weeks after Victoria's little performance on the porch, I got the letter. Not a message, not a call. A letter like we were in a Jane Austen novel and not the smoldering remains of a modern train wreck. It came in a pale blue envelope with her handwriting on the front. Blake, just my name, nothing else. No heart, no return address. That was deliberate. She always did believe in the power of presentation. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Part of me wanted to toss it into the fire pit and pretend it never existed. But the other part, the part that used to reach for her in the middle of the night without thinking, needed to see what she'd say. The letter was 2 pages long. The first half was guilt-polished. I never wanted it to happen like this. You've always been good to me, and I hate that I made you feel like you weren't enough. It wasn't supposed to go that far with Ethan. Right. She accidentally booked a lake resort, drove 5 hours, packed lingerie, and role-played a single woman because it wasn't supposed to go that far. The second page shifted. It was Victoria's real voice. The one she always kept wrapped in honey until it turned to glass. You made things too easy. You never challenged me anymore. I felt invisible around you. Ethan made me feel seen, and you stopped trying a long time ago. I needed more. You gave me routine. He gave me sparks. I wanted to crumple it, burn it, scream. But instead I folded it up, slid it back into the envelope, and tucked it away in a box labeled evidence. Not legal, emotional, a keepsake for the version of me that might someday doubt what really happened. She thought that letter was closure, but all it did was confirm what I'd started to suspect. Victoria never loved me, not the real me. She loved who I was when I was performing, when I was building her a pedestal and applauding every move. The moment I became human, tired, flawed, steady, she tuned out, found a shinier toy. A few days later, Owen, her younger brother, called me. We hadn't talked much before, but he left a message I'll never forget. Hey man, just wanted you to know. I saw the video. I don't know how you didn't lose your mind. She's been acting like nothing happened, like you just flipped out for no reason. You didn't, I'm sorry. You deserve better. I played that voicemail 4 times. It didn't fix anything, but it did something better. It validated me. Meanwhile, Victoria was rebranding, social media full of healing energy and growth. Her captions turned into quotes from self-help gurus. She started tagging Ethan and everything. I guess she thought if she saturated the internet with their love, it would become real. But what she didn't know, what she'll never admit, is that every image she posted just made her more transparent, more desperate. Her story wasn't about joy. It was about proof. Proof that she didn't ruin something good. Proof that she was right to leave. Proof that the fire she lit wasn't just arson for attention. And in chasing that proof, she only made my job easier. Because for the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. The strangest part of moving on isn't the loneliness. It's the quiet. The kind that creeps into your bones when you realize you don't have to brace for footsteps upstairs, or decode a sigh from across the couch, or check the time wondering if she's working late again. It's a silence that doesn't haunt. It's relief. That morning I woke up and made tea for one. No tension in the air. No. Victoria sitting at the kitchen island with her lips pursed, pretending not to be angry while scrolling through her phone. Just sunlight a little too bright, and peace that felt both unfamiliar and earned. I moved into a small apartment near the lake. Nothing fancy. A couch, a bed, a desk. No framed wedding photos. No scented candles she bought and never used. I didn't even bother with a TV at first. I wanted stillness. I wanted to feel everything, even the pain. Especially the pain. Because I'd spent the last year swallowing suspicion, pretending not to notice the slow erosion of trust, pretending she was just busy, not gone. And now there was nothing left to pretend. Victoria didn't reach out for a while after the letter. I thought maybe she'd finally gone quiet. Maybe Ethan was keeping her entertained enough to forget I ever existed. But of course, Victoria never lets the spotlight drift too far. She texted me again. Can we meet for tea? Just to talk. Nothing crazy. I stared at the message like it was a trap door. Why now? She'd already lit the bridge on fire and danced across it. But curiosity or closure or something I couldn't name pulled me in. We met at a little cafe near where we used to live. Neutral territory. She was already there when I arrived. Sitting outside, sunglasses on, latte in hand. Like she hadn't just detonated our life. She stood up when she saw me. I didn't hug her. The first thing she said wasn't hi or I'm sorry or even you look well. It was, you didn't have to be so dramatic. I blinked. Dramatic? You moved out like I was some kind of monster. You cheated on me, lied about it, rewrote history to your friends, and you're mad I didn't leave a sticky note. She looked around like I was embarrassing her, like I was being uncivilized for bleeding in public. I just think we could have handled this better, like adults. That word, adults, coming from the woman who filmed a flirt session in our house and laughed into the lens like I didn't exist. It almost made me laugh. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just watched her fidget with her cup, tapping it like it would give her a better answer. Finally, I said, "Why did you ask to meet?" She paused, and then she gave me the real reason. I think I made a mistake. There it was. The confession she'd never post online. The crack in the mirror she tried so hard to hold together. She missed me. Not because she loved me, but because Ethan wasn't enough. Because the spark burned fast and out. Because the thrill faded. And now she was left with a man who liked the version of her that cheated. Not the version that was loved. I leaned back, took a sip of my tea, let the silence stretch. "You didn't make a mistake, Victoria," I said. "You made a choice." And then I stood up and left. No screaming, no tears, no final scene. Just me walking away for good this time. I walked 4 blocks before I let myself breathe. Not just exhale. Really breathe. The kind that digs into your lungs like it's scraping out old smoke. I don't know how long I'd been holding it in, but it felt like months, maybe longer. All that weight I'd been carrying. The betrayal, the humiliation, the hollowed-out marriage. It didn't disappear, but it stopped clinging to my ribs like it used to. Victoria's words echoed in my head. I think I made a mistake. She said it like she dropped the wrong kind of wine at dinner. Like what we had, what she destroyed, was something she could scoop off the floor and salvage. I used to fantasize about that sentence back when I still thought it meant something. Back when I still hoped she'd regret it enough to try. But standing across from her that morning, watching her stumble through half-truths and rehearsed guilt, I felt nothing. No spark, no ache, just a deep, permanent understanding. She only wanted me back because I'd finally walked away. And Victoria doesn't chase people unless they're already gone. That night, I got a message from Owen again. He'd seen her. She's not doing as well as she says. Ethan's already pulling away. Her friends are exhausted. I think she thought you'd fold. I didn't reply. What was left to say? I wasn't interested in watching her crumble. I wasn't tracking her spiral out of revenge. I wasn't waiting anymore. That was the biggest shift. I wasn't orbiting around her anymore, trying to decode every action, interpret every silence. I had a life now. A quiet one, but mine. I went back to work, picked up more projects than usual, started running again, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen since the wedding. The first time I really laughed, I startled myself. It was like hearing your own voice after being underwater too long. One night at a friend's party, someone asked me, "What happened between you two?" I didn't flinch. I just said, "She fell in love with someone who wasn't me." I gave her the space to enjoy it. The guy nodded slowly. "You okay now?" I sipped my drink. "I'm getting there." Victoria kept posting, kept smiling for cameras, but behind every caption was a quiet desperation, the kind only people who've lost the one thing they couldn't replace carry in their eyes. The difference was, I didn't need anyone to see me anymore. I just needed to see myself again. And for the first time in a long time, I did. 4 months after the day I walked out of that cafe and out of Victoria's gravity for good, something strange happened. I stopped dreaming about her. Not just the vivid, twisted nightmares of walking in on her again, or hearing her whisper someone else's name. She vanished from my sleep. From my morning routine, from that subconscious space where her voice used to echo, taunting or teasing, always just out of reach. In her place, silence. A stillness I didn't recognize at first, almost mistook for emptiness. But no, it wasn't that. It was peace. A slow, careful peace earned through every insult swallowed, every truth denied, every moment I doubted my own reflection because she told me I was too much or worse, not enough. That week, I picked up a new client. Small house restoration job out in the hills, the kind of work I used to do before things got complicated. Before marriage became routine. Before Victoria's eyes stopped lighting up when I walked into the room. The owner was a woman named Luna, smart, reserved. Nothing flirtatious. No tension, just real conversation. Books, movies, favorite seasons. She asked questions. She listened. It had been so long since anyone did that without wanting something. One day, while I was patching drywall in the kitchen. She brought me tea. Just brought it. No strings. You looked cold, she said. That was it. Something small, stupid even, but I felt it like a crack of sunlight in a cave. I didn't tell her anything about Victoria. Not yet. That story wasn't a wound anymore. Just a scar. Still tender in places, but mine to carry. Quietly. A week later, Victoria broke her silence again. This time a message. Can we try again? I miss us. Not I miss you. I miss us. The idea of what we were. The aesthetic, the support, the stability. It was laughable in a way. She torched the bridge, and now wanted to stroll back over the ashes like it never happened. I didn't respond. 2 days later, a photo. Her alone, no Ethan, no caption. Like she was baiting sympathy. It didn't work. I'd already begun erasing her from the narrative of my life. Not out of anger, out of survival. See, the worst part of being with someone like Victoria is the gaslighting. The emotional origami, how they fold your reality until you don't know which way is up. You begin to doubt what you saw, what you felt, what you know, but not anymore. Now I saw her clearly. I saw myself clearly. She didn't ruin me. She revealed me. She stripped away the noise until all that was left was the truth. I was never hard to love. I was just inconvenient to betray. And now that I was no longer there to absorb her damage, she had no one left to project it onto. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need closure. I just needed distance. And that, finally, was something she couldn't take back. The first time I saw Victoria in person again, it wasn't planned. I was picking up some materials at a supply store downtown. Late afternoon, nothing dramatic, just drywall compound and a few fixtures for Luna's kitchen. And then there she was at the register. Alone. No Ethan, no ring, just Victoria. She spotted me before I could turn. Her lips parted like she might call out, but then she hesitated. Maybe she saw it in my face, that clean edge, that complete absence of need, because I didn't feel a single thing. No bitterness, no tightness in my chest. Not even pity. She approached slowly, like someone walking up to a dog they'd kicked too many times. A nervous smile curled at the edge of her mouth. Carefully constructed. Hey, she said, voice too light, too rehearsed. I nodded. Victoria? A flicker in her expression. She was hoping for more. For warmth. For a hint that the door wasn't entirely closed. You look good, she said, reaching for small talk. I shrugged. I am good. She stood there for a moment, holding a basket with a single can of paint and a phone clutched like a lifeline. She didn't know what to do with herself. Victoria, always the one in control, suddenly unsure of her power. You've been ignoring my messages, she said, trying to inject a smile like we were old friends playing catch-up. I read them, I said flatly. Pause. And I don't owe you anything. That cracked her. Just a little. Blake, she said softer, almost pleading now. You know I messed up. I said I'm sorry. No, you didn't mess up. You chose over and over again. You lied to my face. You let me rot while you were playing house with someone else. That's not a mistake. That's a character trait. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't break. And that, I think, hit her harder than any screaming match ever could have. Ethan's gone, she blurted out. There it was. I almost smiled. Not because she was hurting. I wasn't vindictive like that. But because now the truth had fully revealed itself. She wasn't there for me. She was there because her new supply had dried up. Because she realized love isn't a light switch you flip when convenient. Because the applause had stopped and the curtain had fallen. I looked her in the eye. That's not my problem. Her eyes glossed over for a second. Just long enough for me to see the old Victoria. The one who used tears as weapons. But I didn't stick around for the show. I turned, paid for my things, and walked out. No hesitation, no goodbye. Just a door opening and another one finally closing. This time from the outside where I belonged. As I stepped into the fading evening light, I felt something shift. A heaviness I'd been carrying for far too long finally lifted. She no longer lived inside me. She no longer had a vote. She was just a woman I used to know. And I was finally completely free. A week passed after that last encounter. No new texts, no voicemails. Just the soft static of Victoria's absence. The first time it felt like real quiet instead of her holding her breath, waiting for the next move. It was over. Not just in paperwork, not just in story. It was over in energy. That invisible tether that used to pull at me in the dark. Even when I hated her. Even when I swore I was done. Gone. I didn't tell anyone I saw her. Not my brother, not Luna, not my therapist. I didn't need to process it anymore. I wasn't replaying conversations or rewriting comebacks. I wasn't shaken. I wasn't even tempted. I was building shelves that morning, just plain pine, nothing fancy, when it hit me, a feeling I hadn't recognized in a long time. Stillness. Not numbness, not distraction. Just presence. For the first time in years, I wasn't looking backward or forward, just working in the moment like I used to before my life got hijacked by someone else's storm. That's when Luna stopped by. She brought cinnamon rolls. No reason, no flirting. Just kindness. She leaned against the doorframe, eyes flicking over the half-assembled wood on the table. Busy? I shook my head. Not really. Just building something that won't fall apart. She smiled at that. You say that like it's rare? I thought for a second, then replied, It is. We didn't talk about Victoria. She didn't ask. She never pushed. That's what I liked about Luna. She lived in the now. She didn't try to fix me. She didn't compete with ghosts. After she left, I sat there a while, staring at the grain of the wood in front of me. I ran my fingers along the edges. No splinters. Smooth, steady, built right. It made me think of all the things Victoria and I tried to build that we never bothered to maintain. We wanted the image, the house, the rings, the smiles. But we never reinforced the foundation. Or maybe I did. Maybe she just kept setting fires in the walls and waiting to see how long it would take before the beams gave way. But that was the past now. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't need her to understand. I'd learned that some people only apologize when they see you thriving without them. Not because they regret the pain, but because they hate not being the center of your world anymore. Victoria didn't miss me. She missed her favorite mirror. But that mirror was shattered. And the man staring back now, he was someone new, not softer, not harder. Just real. It was early evening when I got the email from our old landlord. Nothing dramatic. Just a notice that the deposit refund from the house Victoria and I once shared had finally cleared. A few $100, enough to remind me of the couch we argued over, the table we never really ate at, the life we carefully staged and slowly stopped living. Attached to the message was a forwarded note from Victoria. She'd added a short sentence. If he wants his half, he knows where to find me. I didn't reply. What would be the point? She wasn't reaching out to return anything. She was fishing. Always had been. She didn't care about the money. Victoria never did. She cared about leverage, control, attention. But that sentence said more than she realized. If he wants it, he knows where to find me. She still believed I was circling her. That a part of me was orbiting even now. She couldn't fathom a version of the story where she was no longer the center of my world. But that's the thing about healing. It's quiet. You don't announce it. You don't prove it. You just stop showing up to the war. That night I made dinner. Simple stuff. A roasted chicken, rice, a side of greens. Nothing gourmet. But for the first time in a long time it was for me, not to please, not to impress. Just to nourish. I sat down with a cold beer and let the quiet fill the room. And I realized I wasn't lonely. Not at all. I was whole. Just me, no missing piece. No aching vacancy. Victoria wasn't a wound anymore. She was a closed chapter, a necessary burn that cleared the ground for something better to grow. After dinner, I walked outside. The air was cool, just on the edge of autumn. The kind of evening where you can smell wood smoke and soil. I stood there on the porch, arms crossed. Looking up at a sky Victoria never noticed. She always had her head down, scrolling, talking, performing, and for the first time, I didn't feel like something had been taken from me. I felt like something had been returned. My time, my energy, my peace, the things I gave her freely, foolishly, because I mistook hunger for love. Victoria will always rewrite the story. That's who she is. In her version, I'll be cold, distant, emotionally unavailable. She'll forget the hours I spent listening, the forgiveness I gave before I even got a real apology. The man who stayed long after she was gone in spirit. But that's fine. Let her have her version, because I finally have mine. And in mine, the man doesn't stay broken. He walks out of the fire, and he builds something beautiful with the ashes. There's a moment after a storm when the world feels hollow, like the wind took something more than leaves when it passed through, and for a while you convince yourself that silence is the absence of something, that peace must mean loss. But now I know better. Silence is the sound of weight falling away. Peace is the return of everything that once belonged to you, the thoughts you couldn't finish, the feelings you buried, the voice in your head that finally sounds like you again. I sat on my porch that morning with a cup of tea and no urgency, no Victoria, no emotional landmines, just the low rustle of trees, a dog barking somewhere down the block, and the smell of earth stretching under sunlight. I used to share mornings like this with her, or at least I tried. She was never really present for them. Always a phone call, a text, a problem to solve that wasn't ours. Back then, I thought stillness was boredom. Now I know it's freedom. I never replied to her last message. The one about the deposit. I never needed to. There was no battle left. She couldn't hurt me anymore. Not because I won, but because I stopped playing. The Victoria I loved is gone. Maybe she was never really there, just a version of her I built out of hope and projection. Dressing wounds and calling it passion. Ethan faded from the picture. I heard about it through the grapevine. Mutual friends who didn't know I'd already stopped caring. Apparently it fizzled fast. No surprise. You don't build a house on a battlefield and expect it to last. Luna and I kept talking. Nothing romantic. Not yet. But she became a quiet constant, someone who asked nothing of me except honesty with her. I never had to shrink, never had to perform. We talk about music and trees and why people stay in broken places. She didn't cry. She didn't push. She just showed up. And so did I. Not for her, not for revenge. For me, because that's what Victoria never understood. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't the guy with firework words and reckless charm. I was the one who stayed, who built, who chose her when it wasn't easy. And when the time came, I was the one who left. Not out of weakness, not out of pain, but out of self-respect. The last thing I ever wrote about her, the final line in the journal I started the night she left for her girls' trip, was simple. She lost a good man. I found a better one inside myself. That was the real ending. Not the confrontation, not the message, not the collapse. The real ending was the becoming. If you're reading this and you're still in it, the confusion, the silence, the half-truths, and sleepless nights, let me tell you something no one said to me when I needed it most. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not broken for noticing what they worked so hard to hide. Walk away. Let them keep their fire. You'll build your own light, and one day you'll wake up in a world that doesn't revolve around them. And you'll realize it never should have.